Good morning, it's 9:30 and this is Observer Radio News. I'm Laura Grande with Natasha Alli and Cody Kraik. In the weather, it's 6 degrees and sunny outside our East York studios. Now, here are the headlines. TTC Chairman Adam Giambrone may soon announce a decision to step away from politics. Prime Minister Stephen Harper says little about his former cabinet minister Helena Georges. Hundreds bid farewell to another Canadian soldier killed in combat in Afghanistan. And the Toronto Blue Jays kick off their season opener at the Rogers Centre. Now, our top story. The Toronto Star reports that TTC Chairman and Councillor Adam Giambrone is ready to step away from politics. In a report released yesterday, the Star says that Giambrone will quit municipal politics, or at least for a little while. Giambrone's executive assistant, Kevin Bolio, is reportedly preparing to announce his own run for office in Ward 18. Giambrone announced his run for mayor back in February, only to step down a week later. The 33-year-old was caught in a scandal involving multiple affairs with women. So far, Giambrone has not registered to run in the next municipal election. He has until September to reach a decision. In national news, Prime Minister Stephen Harper didn't answer many questions yesterday about his Conservative government's most recent scandal. Harper told opposition leaders that he has demoted his former cabinet minister, Helena Georges, after a tip from a third party. Georges' husband, Rahim Jaffer, is a former Tory MP. The Toronto Star reports that he used his wife's position in the Harper government to become friends with controversial business associates. Georges stepped down last week. Harper's government has put her case in the hands of the RCMP and the Ethics Commissioner. Liberal leader Michael Ignatieff says the government is hiding behind the investigations. He wants the Conservative government to tell Canadians the truth. In other national news, Canada has lost yet another soldier. More than 1,500 Canadians attended an emotional ramp ceremony yesterday in Afghanistan for Private Tyler William Todd. He died on Saturday after stepping on an explosive device near Kandahar. Those gathered for the ceremony paid their respect to Todd before he was shipped back home for the funeral. He was from the small town of Bright, Ontario. The village where Todd died has also seen other recent Canadian casualties, yet it's not known as an area to have many Taliban ties. Todd was a member of 11 Platoon Delta Company who were based out of Edmonton. He was only 3 weeks away from finishing his 6-month tour. Todd was 26 years old. Canada has now lost 142 soldiers in the Afghanistan mission. And finally, in local news, plenty of folks and their families were relocated from Regent Park for a revitalization project. Each building is being rebuilt in hopes of a newer, better community. Though many residents assumed the efforts were hopeless, Toronto Housing says the rebuilding has proven to be a success. Clarissa Pessoa reports.
Plenty of folks and their families were relocated from Regent Park for a revitalization project. Each building is being rebuilt in hopes of a newer, better community. Though many residents assumed the efforts were hopeless, Toronto Housing says the rebuilding has proven to be a success. Clarissa Pessoa reports. Bulldozers and jackhammers are a daily fixture at Parliament in Dundas. With Phase 1 of the Regent Park revitalization just completed, Dalmaida says Phase 2 has begun. She says most residents are responding to the new buildings in a positive way.
There's a mix in all of the rental buildings of rent-geared to income housing and affordable rental housing. So the rent-geared to income housing is reserved for Regent Park residents who used to live in the old building. Obviously, there's been great demand from tenants who want to return to a new building.
Dalmaida says even the market rent units are being booked.
We actually have also had very good success renting out the affordable market unit. I think the building is fully rented out. I think all the market rent units are already filled up.
As the hopes for a successful development are being fulfilled, Dalmaida says other old housing complexes in the city may undergo revitalization in the near future. Clarissa Pessoa, Observer Radio News, Toronto.
And that's the latest in the news. Now here's Natasha Alli with today's top stories in sports.
Thanks, Laura. The Blue Jays lose 8-7 in last night's home opener against the White Sox. Toronto's loss to Chicago in 11 innings stopped the Jays' 5-game winning streak. The Fan 590 reports Chicago scored an early 2-0 lead. Blue Jays starter Brian Talbot got off to a rocky start despite improvements in spring training. At the bottom of the second, catcher John Buck picked up the pace to even out with a pitch into the left field. The Sox took lead again in the third inning, 4-2. But Toronto's Adam Lind wasn't about to let the game slide. In right field, he batted Chicago's Jose Bautista and Alex Gonzalez, taking the Jays to a 7-6 lead in the sixth inning after Lind scored with the bases loaded. Outfielder Vernon Wells then took the spotlight with an overhead reach to stop Chicago's Mark Teahen from scoring a home run. But his save wasn't enough. Teahen fought back in the ninth when he sent John Fraser's pitch over the fence into the left field. That forced extra innings the Jays couldn't win. Even with fans filling the Rogers Centre to capacity last night, the opening ceremonies to Toronto's home opener was decidedly downplayed. There were no indoor fireworks, just the noise of 46,000 fans cheering the Blue Jays on opening day. Also last night, the Toronto Raptors win 111-97 over the Detroit Pistons. In a win crucial to making the Eastern Conference playoffs, Andrea Bargnani left the Raptors' offense with 33 points and 5 three-pointers. Amir Johnson scored a career high of 26 points. Toronto has been under fire recently for a visible lack of teamwork. Last night, the Toronto Raptors finished with a season-high 37 assists, with help from Jarrett Jack and Jose Calderon. In a report from the Toronto Star, Coach Jay Triano praised his team and said better ball sharing and trust among players was the Raptors' key strategy. If Boston wins over Chicago tonight, the Raps have a better shot at remaining 8th in Eastern NBA standings. Toronto holds a tiebreaker advantage over Chicago. That dismisses the fact that the Raptors lost to the Bulls Sunday night 104-88. Toronto hosts New York Wednesday night in the playoff deciding game. Wilfrid Laurier University's women's hockey team beat Chinese women national team by 3-1. The game was played on February 30 at the Victoria Village Arena. As the Observer Radio News' Min Shu Mo reports, there were about 300 fans watching this game.
Protesters could be heard.
Wilfrid Laurier University's women's hockey team beat China's women's national team by 3-1. The game was played on January 30 at the Victoria Village Arena. As the Observer Radio News' Min Shu Mo report, there were about 300 fans watching this game. In the audience, there were dozens of Chinese Canadians. They brought the Chinese flags to support the team from their homeland. Team China will play in the upcoming Vancouver Olympics. The friendly match with Wilfrid Laurier was one of their training games. The manager of the Chinese team, Yu Tiande, explained why the team is touring Canada. In our opinion, if you want to play better hockey, you should come to Canada. Just as if the Canadians want to play better table tennis, we should go to China. That's why we come to Canada to train our players every year. And our impression of Canada is so favorable. Ron Baker is president of the Toronto Leaside Girls Hockey Team Association. He said he would like to host more games like this.
We have something of, shall we say, an advantage here in Canada because we have more registered hockey players than any other country in the world. So naturally, if you want to find developmental programs and good competition, this would be the place to come.
In China, hockey is still far less popular than in Canada. Besides sending more young players abroad, the Chinese Sport Commission is negotiating with the NHL, trying to broadcast some of the world's best hockey games in China. Min Shu Mo, Observer Radio News, Toronto.
And while other NHL teams are looking to Stanley Cup predictions, the Leafs are sticking to a more achievable goal. They want Nazem Kadri, and they want him bad. The Toronto Star reports Leafs coach Ron Wilson says he wants the London Knights star to make more than a one-off appearance next season. He believes Kadri will be a Maple Leaf right from the get-go. At an end-of-season news conference, Wilson added the 2008 top draft pick would help to uplift the Leafs. Toronto finished 29th out of 30 teams in the NHL. If Kadri joins the Leafs, he'll strengthen Toronto's core team of young players. That includes Phil Kessel, Dion Phaneuf, and goalie Jonas Gustafsson. That's it for sports. Stay tuned after the break for entertainment news with Cody Kraik. My husband is a couch potato. In 14 years, he's worn out 3 recliners. Can't remember our anniversary, but he's got the TV schedule memorized. One time, I took out the batteries out of his remote control and he called 911. Last week, he came home from work, plops down in his recliner, throws it off in lift-up position, and tells me that his boss is giving a dinner party and we're supposed to bring dessert. So I said, "Great, what are you gonna make?" Then that brought him to his feet and he goes, "Gee, honey, I thought you'd make your famous strawberry cheesecake." "Think again," I said. "He's your boss. You cook something." He was smarter than I thought, so we went to Winn-Dixie and the Deli Bakery and we pick up a cheesecake. Well, his boss's wife raved over it, so he says, "Thank you very much. I made it from scratch." Then he asked for the recipe.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. Here's your entertainment news for Tuesday, April 13th. Last night, the Genie Awards saw a lot of smiles, but also some raised eyebrows. Denis Villeneuve's black and white portrayal of the 1989 Montreal Massacre garnered the film 9 awards. These included Best Producer for Don Carmody and Best Actress for Corinne Vaness. Controversy arose when Quebec film phenom Xavier Dolan failed to receive any nominations. 21-year-old Dolan wrote, directed, and starred in I Killed My Mother, which won 3 Cannes Awards, and the film was named Canada's submission to the Oscars for Best Foreign Language Film. The backstage chatter was dominated by the lack of recognition Dolan had received. Vice Chair of Cinema at the Academy of Canadian Cinema and Television, Kevin Tierney, even suggested that Dolan had been banished to the kiddie table. The Genie Awards will be repeated May 9th on MFest and Movie Central. For everyone who has been eagerly waiting for the return of a certain red-haired and shifty-eyed talk show host, the wait is over. Yesterday, Conan O'Brien and TBS made it official. O'Brien's, as of right now, untitled show is expected to begin airing in November. His time slot is 11 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday to Thursday on TBS. The scheduling shifted the time of George Lopez's new talk show to 12 a.m., but there were no hard feelings. In a statement released by TBS, Lopez said this was the beginning of a new era of late-night comedy. Now we all have yet another excuse to stay up just a little bit later. Starting last Friday and running until August 22nd, the Ontario Science Centre will be host to Hogwarts. The centre is putting on the mother of exhibitions. There will be over 400 authentic Harry Potter costumes and props spread over 9 settings and 1,300 square meters of space. The exhibit promises to make a believer out of even the staunchest of skeptics. Toronto's first completely dark restaurant hopes to change statistics. Au Noir owner Mo Alamandine creates jobs for the visually impaired. Of his 32 employees, 11 are blind. The legally blind employees are waiters for guests who eat in total darkness. They guide patrons through their pitch-black meals. Those with vision loss have a high unemployment rate in Canada. 32% of those who are able to work with vision loss have jobs. This is a number Almadine wants to see change.
Restaurant can hire a blind person, but they never give them the chance to do the job. That's the whole idea, Any normal restaurant, if you show them table number 6 where and table number 9 where and table number 31, they walk, they train, and then they can walk there. And I'm sure people, they will appreciate them.
Almadine says restaurants only want to invest in advertising. He is confident that his restaurant will continue to raise awareness for the visually impaired. That's all for news from Hollywood and Toronto. Now back to Laura Grande.
Thanks, Courtney, and that's the news for today. You can get more news coming up in 15 minutes on the internet at ondemand.centennialcollege.ca. On behalf of all of us here at Observer News Radio, thank you for listening and have a great day.